brings a deck that no one has seen before and is extremely successful with it. And that might be what we see play out here, potentially in this match and for the rest of the tournament, because we are ready to throw down to our players here who are setting up right now and get into some discussion about these very unique decks.
Unique is definitely the right word here, Shelby. Let's introduce these players first. Caitlyn, Earnhart on the left, and Stuart Sakaluk on the right. Both of these players playing, once again, we're not seeing Lugia. Once again, we're not seeing Lost Box, and we're not even seeing Mew this round here, Shelby. Stuart here is actually going to be playing the Control. It's going to be a very similar list to what we saw from Sander Wojcik in the Latin America Internationals. No Mewtwo V Union, instead relying on Eldegoss to loop through the deck turn after turn. And Caitlyn, Caitlyn has brought a doozy of a deck to this event.
Goodness.
Yeah, Caitlyn is going to be playing a Shedinja deck. That is right.
Shedinja deck.
From Vivid Voltage. It has the attack Life Squeeze. For 3 colorless energy, you put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until their remaining HP is 10. Now, Shedinja does have an ability that says you cannot put it into play. It is a basic Pokemon, but you cannot put it on to your bench thanks to that Shell Survival ability. The way Caitlyn attacks with it is by using Ditto from Pokemon Go.
The Ditto!
In order to copy the Shedinja from the discard pile, put your opponent's active Pokemon down to 10 HP remaining, and then she uses that in combination with the Garbodor from, I believe, Vivid Voltage or Darkness Ablaze that puts poisons your opponent's active Pokemon if you have a Stadium card in play. So if she can get
that 10 damage counters in between turns, you're taking a knockout on really any Pokemon that is up in the active position for your opponent.
Yep.
So very unique deck, that is for sure. I feel like the last match we discussed, we were saying these are unique decks. These are even more that we're about to see. And let me remind you, both of these players are at 3-0 right now at this regional championship. So both of them seeing equal amount of success so far in their matchups.
What's going to be interesting to me is how Caitlyn approaches this game. Now, I think it would have been really interesting to see how her deck functioned against something like a Mew or a Lugia, something like that. You know, she's got 3 copies of Raihan in here. She's obviously trying to respond when your opponent takes a KO and just respond with a big one-hit knockout. That's not really something she's going to be able to do in this matchup, as Stuart is playing a control deck. He's going to be trying to take things slow and slow the pace of the game down and run Caitlyn out of energy, most likely. Maybe he'll start attacking with Eldegoss, but I think by the time he starts attacking with Eldegoss, it's unlikely that Raihan's really going to be able to help Caitlyn too much.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a very interesting series of events that we're about to see play out in front of us for both of these players. Let's take a look at these prize cards, though. Is there anything you're seeing, Chip, that might be very crucial for either of these players to lose?
Yeah, double turbo energy, Greedent V on Stuart's side is a little annoying, but you do have multiples of the double turbos, and of course on the control side of things, you can just play Peonia to get access to any of these prizes. You play Peonia 2 times and you've all of a sudden seen everything, so not too big of a deal. On Caitlyn's side, does prize a Ditto and a Trubbish, Twin Energy. I mean, I'm still trying to comprehend what's even going on in Caitlyn's deck before I can even process if these are good or bad prizes just yet.
True. Oh, that is definitely true. So we'll see here, but here we go. We're jumping into our Swiss round 4. We saw the fist bump from both these players, and let's get down to this match. Starting over here on Caitlyn's side with that Gormandized Snorlax in the active position there, which is going to be a huge draw engine, draw support for Caitlyn's deck here.
I'm absolutely stunned right now that Stuart has not picked up the Shedinja to read it, because that is 100% what I would have done. My opponent
immediately
quick balls away Shedinja. I am definitely reading what that thing does. But hey, maybe Stuart's already, he knows. He's got it, he's dialed in, he knows exactly about the Shedinja deck.
Yeah, that very common Shedinja deck that we see every day, right, Tim? Definitely, no. But yeah, Caitlyn going through the deck here with this quick ball, discarding the Shedinja. I don't know how many are in deck here from Caitlyn's point of things, but as many are there in deck, you want to get it into the discard pile for this deck. So that is huge. Quick balling out the ice cue here, little penguin block face going into the hand here for Caitlyn from that quick ball.
Yeah, I wonder if she thinks that Stuart might be playing a Lost Box deck. Ice Q is a card that you see sometimes in the Lost Box deck. I don't know that necessarily as soon as you see Ice Q that you're going to assume that your opponent is playing Control. You might think it's some sort of Intellion deck, something like that, that got top 8 back at Toronto. So there's still a lot of possibilities here, which it makes it tough to try to find the correct way to approach a certain matchup.
Yeah, that's true because IceQ does slot into so many of the different decks that you see here on the floor today. So that is definitely true. Not a lot of knowledge there just from seeing IceQ, but Mana Fee coming down on to the bench here for Caitlyn, so that will protect the bench from being able to be attacked. Path to the Beak is put into play.
Okay,
as
now
well.
we're gonna read the
now
Shedinja.
the Shedinja's coming out here.
Stuart was trying to keep the poker face for a while, but no.
I know what's going on.
We got to take a look at what's happening here.
Yeah, and of course, when you see a Pokemon like that Shedinja, maybe you don't know what is happening still, what you're about to go against, but anytime you see that you're going to be reduced to that 10 HP, you can maybe kind of guess that there's going to be some way for your opponent to get that 10 HP to get a knockout, because that's really the way you take knocks with that sort of strategy. So here from Stuart's side, of course, as Chip said, going to be taking things very slow here, as control decks usually do, especially when it comes down to, you know, late game, you're just looping Pokemon back into the deck and just outlasting your opponent and burning them out of resources. So Stuart's setting up the board state right now with that Pidgeot V with the Forest Seal Stone attached as well.
Yep, using that Star Alchemy V Star power in order to search any one card out of the deck and put it into his hand. And if he's ever worried about Pidgeot becoming a potential liability, it can just get shuffled back into the deck thanks to its ability. That's really one of the main ways that this control deck, once you get to the end game, they keep cards in the deck so that they don't become at risk of decking out at the end of the game. So one card getting added to the hand here, and it looks like it is going to be that Gormandized Snorlax, which is really one of the most important cards for this control deck in the early game. Yeah,
really for both of these players, that Gormandized Snorlax is going to be pulling a lot of weight, figuratively and literally as well here. So definitely for lining each player's hand back up at the end of the turn. Of course, it does end your turn once you do use that ability, and so that is exactly what we're going to see back over to Caitlyn's side as well. Both of these players kind of lining up their benches here. Caitlyn, of course, seeing that Pidgeot V has some more knowledge, and that Snorlax as well, of the deck that she could be playing against now from Stuart, because usually if you see that Pidgeot, okay, this is most likely going to be some sort of control variation deck.
Yeah, and Stuart hit her with the Flannery as well, so I think she's definitely checked in and knows exactly what she's up against now, and we'll see how she adjusts. How does she adapt? Because this is really probably not the main strategy you're going to go for. Whatever you do in this game is not what you would normally do against a Lugia or a Mew, something like that. Pokegear 3.0 does fail to find a supporter. A little unfortunate there for Caitlyn. We'll see if she can thin the hand down to at least draw a couple cards with Snorlax.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the strategy is. I guess on paper, even though these are kind of difficult decks to think about, Tim definitely threw us for a loop here. What do you think about this matchup overall? Is there too many resources in Caitlyn's deck that she could potentially lose out on and not be able to capitalize on her strategy?
Yeah, I'm thinking Caitlyn may have a tough time dealing with Ice Cube plus Wash Energy. So that might be what Stuart tries to play to in this game. Obviously, Shedinja doesn't care about the fact that Block Face makes it so that the Ice Cube doesn't take damage, because Shedinja's attack doesn't do damage. It places damage counters on that Pokemon until it has 10 remaining. But Stuart does, of course, play the Wash Energy, which is going to be a big card for him to try to counteract that. So I feel like if Stuart can establish Ice Cube plus Wash Energy, it's going to be tough. But the question is, can he get to that point?
Yeah, that is definitely the question there, lining that up and being able to do that block face. Of course, it does require quite a bit of energy there, so it's going to take some setup. But over here on Caitlyn's side, we do see that Serena there come into play.
Yep, just drawing some cards.
Drawing some cards here, and of course that Radiant Greninja also being benched down here as well, being able to use concealed cards potentially too to discard an energy and draw more cards. But we are back over on Stuart's side now, starting out with the Trekking Shoes. So draw a card, decide to keep it or throw it away and draw a new card. And that is going to be a keep there from Stuart on that boss's orders. Now going in with a quick ball. Deciding what to discard here to the quick ball, maybe a Charon's Care. Lots of supporters in the hand. Going to go with the Peonia, though, to discard. So I'm not sure if Stuart has looked at all the prize cards yet, but discarding that Peonia to go back into the deck to get a basic Pokemon out.
Can always recycle the Peonia if he wants to later, of course, with that Eldegoss, the Happy Match ability, pulling a supporter from your discard pile and putting it into your hand. That is going to be the main strategy at the end of the game, most likely for Stuart, is go into the Eldegoss and loop turn after turn after turn, unless he gets to the Ice Cube in this matchup. We'll see which way he goes. Yveltal will be grabbed, and we could see the Cry of Destruction start to get rid of some energies potentially here as well.
That is true. That Cry of Destruction, discard 3 special energy from your opponent's Pokemon. Huge card when you're playing against things that play special energy, in particular Lugia.
Right.
That matchup is huge for this card. But attaching Stuart's own double turbo energy to use that Cry of Destruction, discard that twin energy that was on that Snorlax in the active position for Caitlyn, and Caitlyn's going in with the Trekking Shoes of her own there to draw an additional card from the deck.
Yep, did draw into the Lost Vacuum, so if she wants to draw cards with the concealed cards of Radiant Greninja, she can Lost Vacuum away the path, which is preventing her from doing that at this point.
Yep, that is definitely very true. Also, I mean, speaking of this Radiant Greninja, there is potential for attacks to come from that Radiant Greninja as well for Caitlyn if she can get the required amount of energy too. So that is another alternate attacker for the deck if the strategy with the Shedinja can't be pulled off. And we are going to see that Lost Vacuum. So putting one of your cards into the Lost Zone, which is going to be that Pal Pad, and then being able to either discard a tool card or a stadium card off of the board, going for that Cape of Toughness from Stuart's end. So that Cape of Toughness is going into the Lost Zone as well for Stuart.
Yep, so choosing not to go with the Radiant Greninja in this spot, I think probably wants to just keep the energy in hand more than anything and just try to attach as many basic energy as possible. And it actually works out nicely for her that she does play basic energy, as we do see Stuart a quick turn, draw, pass. The basic energy is nice because it cannot be discarded by the Yveltal. So if Caitlyn can just keep those basics around, she can start to threaten any of her attacks.
Yeah, most definitely, and being able to do bench damage is pretty huge there as well for the Radiant Greninja too. So, all right, we're just going to see the pass. Of course, both these players taking it real slow here. I'm sure Stuart also still trying to just figure out what he's even playing against at this point. So we are going to go back to Stuart's side. We see the double turbo energy come back onto the board here for Stuart for turn. And we are going to see the retreat into that block face Ice Cube. Now the energy is attached to be able to utilize that block face. So we are seeing that strategy being played out here on Stuart's side. 70 damage there. Of course, 50 now that the double turbo is reducing it by 20. So 50 going down onto that Snorlax over to Caitlyn's side now. Huge hand here for Caitlyn. Both of these players are probably going to have pretty big hands on both sides.
I imagine so,
yeah, we are going to see double turbo energy go down onto that Radiant Greninja.
It looks like Scoop Up Net will pick up the Snorlax. Radiant Greninja's Moonlight Shuriken will deal 70 damage to 2 Pokemon, thanks to the double turbo energy, reducing that damage output. Of course, I think Caitlyn here will target the 2 benched Pokemon, since Block Face from Ice Cube is currently preventing that from taking any sort of damage at all. I think that both players here are probably just having to get their game plans going on the fly, most likely. I think they're both trying to figure out exactly what's happening. Caitlyn, you know, maybe at least on her side, she's probably like at least thought about the control matchup. Okay, what would I do? Stuart, on the other hand, he's definitely trying to figure it out here.
Yeah, I know. Control is definitely a strategy. I'm sure you play against a lot of the meta decks. You practice against them, but this is definitely probably throwing Stuart for a loop here. So both players, again, just taking it slow here. We are seeing a quick ball over on Caitlyn's side, discarding that Scoop Up Net.
She does have Yveltal from Celebrations in this deck, so that is going to be her strategy against the Ice Cube with the Wash Energy. She wants to get Yveltal, get energies on it, and then discard the Wash Energy and the double turbo. So that way, not only Ice Cube can it not attack, but also you set yourself up to be able to now poison and get rid of it. Not going to reveal it just yet, though, which I actually like. I don't think you want to reveal the Yveltal until you're about to use it.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge thing for players. It plays into even more of your strategy. You want to reveal as least amount of cards as possible to your
Yes.
opponent as often as you can, because if it's such a pivotal part of your strategy, you don't want to give it up until you're utilizing it, so you don't give your opponent time to think about how they can play around that strategy. So it's definitely a heads up play there, I'm sure, from Caitlyn here, and we are going to see that Radiant Greninja come into play. Of course, that double turbo, like we said, doing a little bit of reduction on the damage, being discarded as well.
Yep.
So 70 going on to both that Evital on bench and the Snorlax as well.
Stuart with the draw for turn. He's got the Sharon's Care and Scoop 'em Net, so he could go to Lone Ice Cube here if he wants to.
That's that's looking like what's potentially going to happen. That Sharon's Care scooping up that Snorlax, but making that difficult decision there, but choosing to replay the Snorlax down here on Stuart's side. Again, huge hands for both of these players, but we are just going to see that block face come back into action here on that Radiant Greninja. So a little bit of chip damage here with that 50, and back over on Caitlyn's side.
Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense from Stuart. You want to keep some Pokemon around most likely, but at the same time, you don't want to let Caitlyn just take 2 prizes in one single turn. So by healing one of the 2 Pokemon, you make sure that, okay, both Pokemon are not going to be KO'd at once. My opponent's only going to get 1 prize from this play.
Yeah, definitely reducing as much as you can from your opponent's point of things. So that's what we're going to see, though. 1 prize card being taken here from Caitlyn
Could
for
be a
that
big flip
knockout.
here.
Ooh, Crushing Hammer. Ooh, it is a tails, so no discarding of energy there, which, like you said, Chip, that's huge. Control decks want to, well, really control as much as possible in the matchup there, so that is definitely a huge card that's played in these decks. We're going to see the Scoop Up Net, scooping up that Snorlax, benching it back down as well. A huge card to be able to get rid of damage counters that are on the board as well for Stuart. And now we're back over onto Caitlyn's side. That damage being put onto the Radiant Greninja, so slowly chipping away here at that Radiant Greninja. Caitlyn, of course, would be able to recycle that Radiant Greninja back out if there are things like Ordinary Rod or something in deck. So, and there's still an open bench spot here as well for Caitlyn to play another Pokemon down, but we'll see what Caitlyn chooses to do this turn.
Yeah, this seems like a decent turn to go for the Gormandize, most likely. Retreat into your Snorlax. Try to thin the hand down with a couple of the Ultra Ball that are in your hand so that you can draw as many cards as possible. We do see Caitlyn has her own copy of Wash Energy in the deck.
Yeah, but not playing it just yet, choosing to instead retreat from that Radiant Greninja into that Snorlax. So we are going to see that Gormandize, I'm sure, this turn. Looking through the discard here on Caitlyn's side. And the hand, of course, still lots of cards potential to be played from the hand, and we are going to see that Wash Energy is going to come down onto the Ice Cube on bench. So maybe, are we about to see some block face versus block face, Chip?
Ice Cube on Ice Cube action here incoming, I think.
That's what I signed into stream for. Some block face versus block face.
And we'll reveal the Evital here. That is a big card now that Stuart is going to see that Caitlyn has access to. I think she wants to bench it before using the Gormandize here, and by putting it in play now, Stuart's not going to be able to disrupt her on something like a Marnie, something like that. Actually, Stuart here, looking at the list, I don't see any Marnie. Sometimes these control decks will play 1 copy. I guess more so probably in the Mewtwo version of the deck, so not going to be seeing that in this list from Stuart, so Evital's here to stay.
Yeah, that is definitely true. So Caitlyn taking out that Evital, but we are just going to see that Gormandize, so not putting it into play just yet, and we are going to see those cards go to hand from the Gormandize, drawing up to 7 in hand, and we're back over on Stuart's side. Still.
And that is a big draw for Stuart. The Sydney, and a bad timing for Caitlyn as she did draw into a Stadium and an Energy card. So, yeah, Stuart can discard both of them here. And he's going to get a good look at what the rest of the hand holds as well.
Again, just controlling. Was that the top deck too, Chip?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, no. Unlucky. Absolutely unlucky there on Caitlyn's side. But, yep, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles, unfortunately, here on the stream. But back over to Caitlyn, having to work around that situation now. Still has lots of cards in hand, but still trying to formulate, all right, how am I going to get to my win condition in this match.
I think here we're just going to try to play some cards out as Caitlyn, and Gormandize draw up a little bit more, hoping to get into an energy card and hoping your opponent doesn't have like another Sydney. And it will just be Gormandize for one, it looks like.
All right, back over to Stuart's side. These decks are so complex, but we're just seeing the pass back and forth here from both of our players. We're going to start off with an Ultra Ball, discarding, of course, that Forest Seal Stone. Pretty easy discard there since it's already been used. And then, of course, the Galar Mine, too, a card that is put into play to stick your opponent in even more of a tough position because they're not able to retreat and such like that. It increases their retreat costs. But Caitlyn, I think, has plenty of scoop up nets available still. So that's going to the discard, drawing out a Manaphy from the Ultra Ball to protect the bench.
Yep.
So that Radiant Greninja wouldn't be able to hit through it.
Yep, and it looks like Manaphy will come down into play as well. Stuart's going to play a decent amount of cards here. And just go with the research, ditch the hand and draw 7 more. See if we can find something else to work with.
Yeah, only one card was in the hand. That was that Boss's Orders. Yveltal's on the bench now with that double turbo energy attached. Fresh 7 cards from that Professor's Research. And another block face coming from that Ice Cube into the Snorlax. Back over onto Caitlyn's side here. Let's see if the strategy is coming to fruition here from Caitlyn's hand. Quick Ball starting off the turn, discarding a card to draw out another Pokemon from the deck, discarding that Tool Jammer.
Yeah, that's a card that could come up and be useful. Stuart does play a couple copies of the Cape of Toughness. And this is something I was kind of curious about from Caitlyn. Would we see Trubbish come down, and would we see Garbodor start to lay some poison damage into play? Now, Wash Energy does only prevent effects of attacks. Now, Garbodor does have the ability to poison both, does have the ability to poison the Ice Cube. And Stuart is going to take a moment to read the Garbodor, make sure he knows exactly what it does.
Yeah, I've played a couple of different decks that actually feature that Garbodor. Such a cute little card as well, so definitely checking up, seeing, okay, I'm kind of figuring out here what's about to start happening potentially to my Pokemon. But we still don't see the Ditto, so, and there is a full bench here for Caitlyn as well, but still establishing that Garbodor is also going to put Stuart on the back foot. Okay, how do I navigate against this now? What do I need to be playing now that that is on the board state? What do I need to be worrying about, really? What's the threat on the board? But we are going to see Stuart starting off with that Hisuian Heavy Ball, searching through the prize cards, so those prize cards are now available to Stuart to take out a basic Pokemon. That Greedent was sitting in there for Stuart, and then replacing it with that Heavy Ball and being able to memorize those prize cards, which is huge for this card, and then shuffle them up and reorganize them back onto the table.
Yeah, Stuart might want to get the Roseanne's Research out of the deck at some point. That can be a great way to recover special energy cards if they get discarded by Caitlyn's own Yveltal at some point. But for now, it will have to remain in the prizes unless Stuart starts taking KOs, which we are likely going to see here on this turn with the block face. We'll be dealing enough to knock out Snorlax.
Yeah, that Snorlax is going down.
Yeah, it took us 20 minutes, but I think we're going to see our first KO here.
Well, so I guess, yeah, first KO from Stuart here, but first the Silene, and we are going to see one heads on Stuart's side here, so being able to draw one card from that flip out of the discard pile and put it on the top of the deck.
Does eye up the Flannery, wants to value getting rid of the special energies, but also get rid of a stadium card, which Garbodor does require you to have a stadium into play in order to use its Poisonous Puddle ability.
Yeah, that's actually a huge thing to note for sure. And Caitlyn, I believe, has already cycled through 2 stadiums, including this one that is down currently, that Path to the Peak. So choosing to promote that Radiant Greninja that already has some damage counters on it. Now we're seeing what Caitlyn decides to go into, of course, opening up a bench slot now for Caitlyn because of that knockout from Stuart. Both players tied up now, both having taken one prize card. But I gotta say, Chip, this is going real slow.
Yeah.
I mean, like I expected, though.
I think it's probably going to be a 1-game set. If I had to guess, whoever wins game 1 is probably going to come away with the win in this round. Caitlyn will play the Hisuian Heavy Ball. Did have option to get Ditto there if she wanted to, but instead does eye up the Trubbish. I do think she is holding on to a couple of Raihan in the hand, and Stuart did just take a knockout, so Raihan could be a great card to get you an extra energy in play, and also find you anything out of your deck that you want.
Yep, that little Trubby coming out. That Ditto still in the prize cards as we saw it being reorganized there from Caitlyn's side, but there is still, I believe, 2 more in the deck.
Yep.
I don't think I saw any in hand, but they're still in the deck as well. So let's see what cards Caitlyn decides to play down here. I saw eyeing up maybe benching that Yveltal now, which would take up the last bench spot from Caitlyn's side. But, oh, is that the Raihan?
Yeah, she could use Yveltal this turn. It would require her to Raihan onto it, and then play the switch card in hand, and then off the Raihan grab an energy card. And that would discard, oh, what am I saying? The wash energy actually prevents the Yveltal from discarding the wash energy off of the Ice Cube, right? So it's like you want to discard the wash energy, but you're actually prevented from doing that. So it doesn't even quite work that way. So Yveltal is really not going to be a good option, and
no effects
instead,
happening.
Caitlyn is probably just going to grab the Garbodor and hope that this can chip up a decent amount of damage for her.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's playing out here from that Raihan. So attaching an energy card from the discard pile on to what was that Trubbish, and then drawing Garbodor out from the deck with that choice from the Raihan and evolving straight into it. So as we said, the path does have, or sorry, not the path, any stadium has to be in play, but we are going to see that poison happen, which is going to deal 10 damage in between turns after the, or I guess during the Pokemon checkup phase.
Yeah, during Pokemon checkup, yep. Happens after your turn, and that'll just start to add some damage into play. And something Caitlyn could do to maybe catch Stuart by surprise would be to get enough energy on this Garbodor that she can actually attack with it. She does play 1 basic darkness energy, so if she can find it, Sludge Bomb actually does deal 80 damage, and Ice Cube can only, you know, protect itself from basic Pokemon. So Garbodor, being a stage 1, would actually be able to attack and theoretically knock out Ice Cube if enough poison damage got built up on it.
That is very true. That little penguin could be at risk here. And that actually might be what happens potentially over on Caitlyn's side, because we do see that promotion of the Garbodor into the active position.
Yep, not going to be quite enough to knock out the Ice Cube this turn, but can set it up to be KO'd coming back into Caitlyn's turn. So it'll do 80 damage here. We see the attach of the Darkness Energy Sludge Bomb coming out. Not something I would have expected at all. No one had Sludge Bomb on their bingo card this weekend, I don't think.
Most definitely. That is for sure, Chip. But yeah, we did see the energy attach for turn. So of course you can only attach 1 per turn, but we saw 2 there from the Raihan from the discard pile, and also allowing Caitlyn to draw another card from the deck. Big Parasol going down now onto that Garbodor in the active position. Another Trubbish coming out, and an Ordinary Rod to get energy and Pokemon back out of the discard pile.
Yeah, can grab, it looks like just 1 basic water in there. There's the second Garbodor. If this active one goes down. Now this play is going to feel really sad for Caitlyn if Stuart has like a scoop up net in hand, a way to heal this Ice Cube to, it does force Stuart, of course, to lose the wash energy, but can, of course, get them back theoretically with the Silene. But what this is doing for Caitlyn is it's just putting on pressure. Stuart doesn't have a great way to deal with the basic energy on the Garbodor, and you're doing effectively 90 damage a turn thanks to Poisonous Puddle, and if you're not able to remove the stadium, it just becomes more and more and more.
Yeah, will this come down to some Crushing Hammer hits, Chip? Some essential Crushing Hammers? We shall see. But going back over to Stuart's side here, starting off with a Trekking Shoes, going to keep the card there. And then, ooh, here we go, into a Yellowhorn. So both active Pokemon for both players are going to be confused now.
And the Bird Keeper can switch the Ice Cube out, so it's no longer poison, just 10 damage away from being KO'd.
No poison, no confusion, and straight into that Snorlax, as well as some draw from the Bird Keeper for Stuart too. So great card for that specific situation. Going back into the deck here with a Quick Ball, discarding that Hisuian Heavy Ball as well. So drawing out another basic Pokemon from the deck here. You know, there's Miltank, there's Eldegoss, going for the Miltank here on Stuart's side.
Yeah, I wonder if Stuart wants to attack with this Miltank. Its route attack deals 10 damage plus 20 more damage for each Pokemon your opponent has on their bench. So it's dealing 90 damage right now. Respectable enough to be able to two-hit KO this Garbodor. And if Caitlyn does swing into Confusion and flip tails, it's actually math that checks out exactly for the route to take the KO.
That is very true, Chip. Ooh, This is getting spicy here between both of these decks. That is definitely true. All right, so we're over on Caitlyn's side.
Oh, the Galarian
Now-
Zigzagoon. That'll
Oh,
ping the
let's
Ice Cube in
go.
order to take a knockout here. Assuming that's where Caitlyn wants to put that damage counter and get rid of that Ice Cube that has been really tough for her to deal with so far.
I didn't even see that in the list, so we're a little bit surprised here from that Goon. And it's going to come down using that headbutt tantrum to take that knockout on the Ice Cube, the benched Ice Cube, and allowing Caitlyn to take another single prize card.
And we'll put a Twin Energy for turn onto the Snorlax on the bench. Thumping Snore is a real threat of an attack, and it can deal with everything. I think Caitlyn here is maybe debating, do I go for the Sludge Bomb? And it looks like we're going for it.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going for it, and it is a heads hit.
Let's go.
Let's go. 80 damage from the Sludge Bomb.
Huge. That is huge. All right. Because, of course, if it was a Tails, you take your own confusion damage.
Yes.
So that is something you want to avoid at all costs. But Caitlyn decided to gamble that. And now we are back over onto Stuart's side here. Popping off here with a Colress's Experiment, so able to draw into some more cards here. Of course, we are going to see 2 cards hit the Lost Zone, which, I mean, both these players right now have 1 card in the Lost Zone. It's just not applicable really here for, I mean, these aren't Lost Box decks, but there's still resources that both players are losing for the rest of the game. So that is important to keep into mind.
So you really got to, before you use Colress's Experiment, really got to know that it's going to be a potentially tough decision, and to hope that whatever decision you make is going to be not too bad for you later on. Stuart did choose to hang on to the Quick Ball. I got to think that is so he has a way to fetch out Eldegoss potentially. Wants to utilize that in order to get back a supporter, and that is going to be his main loop in the late game. Yes.
The loop has been established. All right, and those damage counters are coming right back up because of that scoop up net on that Snorlax into another Snorlax. And we are just going to see the pass here back to Caitlyn. That Garbodor in the active position is still confused, but there is another Garbodor being established on the bench as well for Caitlyn.
Yep, can't use that ability. There's no stadium in play yet. And looks like, yeah, we're going for it once again.
Another one.
And this one will be a tail. So Caitlyn will take 30 damage here, which that does set up now where Stuart can take the KO with a route.
Ooh, and now we're going to see the Crushing Hammers. And that is going to be a discard there of that essential dark energy, because of course the attack for Garbodor is 1 dark and 2 colorless requirements. So Caitlyn having to have another dark energy or a way to draw into it to be able to even attack, and still that Garbodor is confused.
Yeah,
so
Caitlyn only has that 1 darkness energy.
No
and
way.
I'm looking through the list here, and I think that all of her ways to recover it are also gone. She has 1 ordinary rod. She already used it. The training court got discarded when his whenever her opponent played the Sydney, whenever Stuart played his Sydney. So
no, you're right.
That
and look, the Galarmine coming into play as well on Stuart's side. So yeah, that is a good point to make, Chip. That is for sure. The resources have been reduced for sure from Stuart. And now we can still see, well, we are going to still see that Poison come into play because the Galarmine is in play now from Caitlyn's side.
Yep, that'll start to rack up. Stuart, of course, can heal that damage off every turn by using Bird Keeper or, you know, Scoop Up Net, Sharon's Care. There's many ways to get rid of the poison and even get rid of the damage that is out there.
And there's so many ways to even just recycle those cards that are getting rid of your damage back into your deck too. So yeah, this is getting interesting here for sure. We are going to see a Pal Pad shuffling 2 supporters, speaking of recycling, back into the deck here on Stuart's side.
Yep, puts back the Silene and Bird Keeper, 2 pretty important ones. Does have that Eldegoss in the hand, but maybe just waiting to draw into the Bird Keeper as opposed to using Happy Match and get it right away.
True. All right.
We're really close to Stuart being able to just set up the Eldegoss loop where every single turn he can, you know, put down the Eldegoss, put a double turbo energy on it, use the Bird Keeper, move into the Eldegoss, and shuffle back into the deck. And then next turn draws a card and then uses Pyukumuku to draw the other card, Bird Keepers into the Pyukumuku. You know, you see the cycle, how it can continue on turn after turn after turn.
Yeah, it is definitely not something I enjoy playing against, that's for sure, Chip. And you have to have ways around it, too. because once they get into that, they're set. You know, that is their win condition there,
And
at least one of them.
I think Caitlyn sees the writing on the wall here, recognizes that she can't win this one, is looking like she conceded here, and we're going into game 2 as Stuart comes away with the win over Caitlyn's Shedinja deck.
Honestly, I am not faulting Caitlyn for that at all, because there's still 18 minutes left on the clock, Chip, so there is potential to see something new, something fresh play out in this next round that we're about to hop into, this next game, in this best-of-3 set between Caitlyn and Stuart. But wow, what do you think about that first game, Chip?
Yeah, I mean, Caitlyn's deck is obviously really cool. It's really unique,
cool.
very awesome. But when you play against something like Control, you have to really adjust your strategy.
Yeah.
And we just saw that Control, even against something that you don't know about, right? This Ice Q and, you know, the Ditto, the Shedinja, all these things going on in Caitlyn's deck. Yeah, Garbodor, all these things. Stuart has enough answers to all the little tricks that Caitlyn can throw at him, and was able to get the win in game number 1. I think it is a smart concede there from Caitlyn. Gonna try to give herself the best chance to at least get 1 match point here. I don't think there's any way that 2 games are finishing in 18 minutes, but there's a chance that 1 game can. So Caitlyn's gonna try to get this win in this second one and hope that it can at least come away, this game can at least result in a tie.
Yeah, most definitely. That is for sure the aim there. It's still not bad at all to be taking ties, especially when you're at a 3-0. Of course, you always want the win, but a tie is definitely not bad. That's for sure. So both these players setting up now for our game 2 between them. You know, I kind of wish I could just sit down with Caitlyn and be like, so, where did this come from?
Yeah, no kidding.
How did you decide to bring this deck? Where did the inception come from? I would love to know that, because it is so interesting. But we are gonna see, that Radiant Greninja in the prize cards, as well as a Garbodor and a Trubbish.
Yeah.
Too, and an Energy.
A little bit of awkward prizes for Caitlyn. The Greninja can be really good to help you draw cards early, and we saw it be a solid attacker for her in the first game. And we did see the Garbodor strategy at the end of game number 1, and maybe that's something she would have wanted to lean into earlier here. She still can do that, does play a 2-2 line, so we definitely could still see that happen, but it's going to be a little harder to find those pieces.
Yeah, especially with both of these players' decks. You know, they both play the Gormandized Snorlax and have access to so many cards once they start stacking up their hands. So really, you can play out any sort of strategy you want, as long as you're not too hindered from whatever your prize cards are. Once you just start gathering all of those cards with little disruption as well. So Stuart just being able to kind of take it on the fly and work around whatever Caitlyn is throwing at him is just sort of an advantage he has, unfortunately, in this matchup for Caitlyn.
Now, if game 2 does not complete, since only 1 game was played, Stuart would still be the winner of this round. So just because you go to time and you don't finish all 3 games, it doesn't automatically mean that it is a tied match. If it's only 1 single game that happened, Stuart would still be the winner of this round.
Yep, and we do see that, we see a Snorlax, a Yveltal, a Radiant Gardevoir, and a Yellowhorn. All cards, I believe, that we saw played in the last game there for Stuart in the prize cards. So we are headed down to our table now for our second game between these players. Kicking it off again on Caitlyn's side here, opting to go first, starting off with an Ultra Ball, discarding 2 cards, and searching out a Pokemon to start getting this bench established.
And right away, we see the Trubbish being brought to the front of the deck. I think that is a strategy that Caitlyn waited maybe a little too long to lean into in game number 1. She didn't choose to go for Garbodor until far, far later in the game. Maybe if that had gotten established early, more pressure could have been applied. So she's going to change it up and grab the Trubbish early.
Yeah, that is, I mean, because it's an evolution Pokemon, so you do have to evolve into it. It does require a lot of energy as well to be able, if you are going to be attacking with it. So definitely getting that set up early is pretty huge. Also, this just seems like a deck on Caitlyn's side that you're really, you really need that bench space. Like, you have to really pick and choose what you're choosing to bench, because there's so many Pokemon. So depending on what you choose to be your strategy for this, those bench spaces are slim.
Does have Ultra Ball in hand, so we could see the turn 2 Garbodor, and the Training Court will right away bring an energy back. So kind of mitigates the cost of that Ultra Ball a little bit. We do see the attachment come down to the Ice Cube, and Caitlyn's actually threatening a turn 2 block face.
Turn 2 block face, but on Caitlyn's side now versus the block face that we saw so much for Stuart in
Yep.
the last game. But starting off with a Hisuian Heavy Ball, again, a classic here for Stuart, being able to take out a basic Pokemon from the prize card. So there were a couple in there, I believe,
Yeah.
that Snorlax being drawn out from the prize cards, replaced with that Hisuian Heavy Ball, and then shuffled back up and replayed onto the table. So having 2 Snorlax here, collecting tons of cards into hand with that Gorman dies as well on Stuart's side.
Yep.
That's
Snorlax,
just-
yeah, seems like the best grab here. He's only
Yeah.
got 3 copies in the deck, so you want to make sure you have plenty of access to them so that you can draw through with the Gorman dies. And Yveltal's just kind of okay in this matchup. You maybe want to utilize 1 or 2 at some point, it feels like, but definitely don't need all 4, so you're fine leaving that. And Radiant Gardevoir is really not useful in this matchup. It's really only going to come into play for this deck when you're going up against a Lugia deck with Lumineon in it, right? So that you prevent them from using Aqua Return on a Yveltal.
Yep, so here we go. Quick ball into Stuart's own Ice Cube. Discarding, of course, that scoop up net, so that is 1 net down. With these control decks, it is so important to keep track of your resources. So I'm sure Stuart noting that 1 scoop up net down, still plenty to go though. Manaphy also dropping down, so there won't be that threat of Greninja into a crushing hammer.
Yeah, that's a big flip and a big turn for Stuart. 7 cards here off of Gorman dies, and also found the 1 of Wash Energy to put onto the Ice Cube.
That was definitely a very impactful crushing hammer. Boom goes the hammer. Let's go. On to Caitlyn's side now, I'm sure feeling it after that hammer. Having to readjust here a little bit, but still plenty of cards in hand to be able to thin through this deck a little bit. Choosing to go with the Ulster Ball to discard her own Scoop Up Net as well as a Quick Ball. So going down those 2 cards, 2 pretty important cards, honestly, for this matchup. So, but choosing to prioritize that Garbodor, choosing it out of the deck as well from that Ultra Ball. Very important here on Caitlyn's side. The stadium is in play here, so we can see that poison as well. So it might just come down to, can Caitlyn be chipping away enough damage here throughout this match?
Yep, can even throw a little bit of extra damage in play with Ice Cube's Icy Snow attack. It does deal 20 damage for just 1 water, and we know that Caitlyn can just get that back with the training court. She also does actually even have Wash Energy in hand if she wants it, but for now, we'll go with that basic. It's harder for Stuart to remove from play, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so we are going to see the poison there come into play. We're going to see that Ice Cube plus that extra damage counter from the poison in the Pokemon checkup phase back over to Stuart's side. It's just so tough, though, Chip, when you put that damage down, you're trying to stack up, and then Stuart does something like, okay, I'm just going to scoop this up now. And all of that, you know, is gone, which is quite sad to see, I'm sure, from Caitlyn's side. But you have to do what you can here for Caitlyn. So Stuart going to use a Bird Keeper here, switch back into the other Snorlax and draw a couple cards as well. They're off that Bird Keeper into a Galarmine, double turbo. We'll see. We haven't seen a attachment for turn on the energy side of things, but now we do. That double turbo coming down onto that Ice Cube, unlocking some block face action here from that Ice Cube. The strategy we saw play out for Stuart in the last game. Scoop up net, getting rid of all of that damage on the Snorlax from Caitlyn, and Stuart's just set up here.
Yep, this is pretty ideal for Stuart. The big thing that is difficult to make happen in this deck whenever you want to attack with Ice Cube is finding the Wash Energy, it feels like. And Stuart was able to mitigate that by finding it turn 1, and now he's got pretty much everything else rolling. You're just going to see Block Face. It's going to be doing 50 damage every single turn thanks to double turbo energy. Does reduce that damage by 20. And yeah, I mean, he's just set up. He's going to start doing the damage necessary every single turn, and Caitlyn can now respond with her own Block Face.
Let's go.
Not going to do any damage, but now that effect will be on the Ice Cube, so she won't be taking damage now. So we're in a little bit of a stalemate almost, it feels like.
Oh my goodness. Another thing I did not expect on the bingo card as well, Chip, in this situation, that's for sure.
Ice Cube versus Ice Cube.
Ice Cube versus Ice Cube. What a cute card there. So Caitlyn going in, I believe playing the Capacious Bucket to search out 2 basic water energy from the deck.
Yep, we'll add those to the hand. We'll be seeing Garbodor use that Poisonous Puddle ability here shortly. We'll start to get some damage into play on the Ice Cube, and maybe we'll start to see Garbodor get some energies onto it once again, just like we did in game number 1. And that's really going to be Caitlyn's best hope, is try to get the necessary energy in play so that you can use Sludge Bomb.
Yeah, the only sticky situation for Caitlyn is having to draw into that single dark energy as well for that Garbodor. So, and of course Snorlax not being in play, not Gormandizing, block face is inactive, so there's that too. We are going to see that Flannery get rid of that twin energy that was on that Ice Cube there on Stuart's side. So,
and did Caitlyn forget to use Poisonous Puddle last turn?
I think yeah.
She may have.
Was there's no stadium?
Yeah, well, yeah, because Stuart just discarded
right.
it with the Flannery.
No.
Yeah.
So just missing out there on that Poisonous Puddle.
Yeah,
you
it
hate
could be
to see
a little bit more damage in play, but does draw into another stadium, so can at least still keep the damage going. Let's see if we remember. Yeah, this time we definitely want to use that, get that damage in play. I've been in this spot before on the stream. You lost game 1. You gotta try to play quickly in order to win another game, and you just maybe forget one small little step. For me, it was forgetting to bench a Comfy before using Scoop Up Net, and for Caitlyn, I think it was just forgetting to use the Poisonous Puddle ability. It happens.
Yep, so that is one less Poisonous Puddle happening, but now it is activated, taking that damage from the poison there. Stuart's going to use that Colress's Experiment, 2 cards going into the Lost Zone, drawing 3 to the hand, and back into this Ice Cube's block face here onto Caitlyn's Ice Cube. Ice Cube, Penguin versus Penguin right now in this match.
Yeah, Caitlyn doesn't have a great hand here. A couple of energies, a switch card, a big Parasol. So not really too much going on. The poison damage is going to start to add up, but honestly, for Stuart to not just take the win in a few turns with Ice Cube, Caitlyn's really going to need to draw something here very soon.
Yeah, that's the tough part. If you don't have that Snorlax to just stack your hand with cards, you know, you could be in this position that Caitlyn is in right now, having not enough cards to play with, really. That's what it's coming down to. So Stuart really just being able to pop off here in the opposite situation. Colress after Colress here for Stuart, discarding really unneeded cards for this match and keeping all of the essential cards in the hand off of the Colress. So just running away, so many cards in the hand now for Stuart as well. So just being able to respond even more to whatever Caitlyn throws at him.
Yeah, and even has the Cape of Toughness. So if Caitlyn did have the 1 dark energy, not going to be able to take that knockout on the Ice Cube anymore. Gives it a little bit more survivability. Let's see for turn. Can Caitlyn find something? It is the Ditto. That's at least a basic Pokemon to put down, but still, it's feeling tough. It's feeling like an uphill battle here. She really would have loved to have found something like Raihan there, or the Dark Energy itself even.
Yeah, that is definitely true. All right, so yep, Stuart did go down 1 prize card as well, so already taken these knockouts back over to Caitlyn's side. Ditto is going to be benched here, attached as well for turn with that Wash Energy onto the Ditto. And big Parasol coming down onto that Garbodor as well.
And just a
pass. You hate to see a chip, but that requirement of the Dark Energy is a heavy one. And I don't even think Caitlyn was really predicting that she would even really be attacking with this Garbodor, which is why there's only 1 Dark Energy in the deck, you know. So I'm sure that is probably not on Caitlyn's bingo card today either.
Well, I mean, she must have thought she would have attacked with it at some point because she chose to play the Dark
true,
Energy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does have
true.
Yveltal as well, which can attack, you know, does 80 damage with the double turbo on it. So.
Well, I mean, it's great, too, because it does go through Ice Cube, so.
This was a huge draw.
Oh,
the Snorlax of the top deck. So now Caitlyn's going to be able to utilize Gormandize. Was unable to use Switch Cart in the hand, had to manually retreat because, of course, Switch Cart only allows you to switch basic Pokemon. Garbodor is, of course, a stage 1. But now Snorlax, since the active Gormandize fills the hand, okay, Caitlyn's got a little bit of hope here still.
Yeah, that hope is back in the game here, but there's only 5 minutes left, Chip, so we are going to need to see some stuff happen here in this game if Caitlyn wants to hopefully take a tie, which is the aim here right now. Walk away with a tie versus a loss, but we are back over on Stuart's side now. Boss's orders coming down to get that Garbodor back into the active position.
Yep, and it's got 50 damage on it from the Ice Cube last turn, so now Body Slam deals exactly enough in order to pick up this KO. Garbodor going down, Stuart down to just 4 prizes, and there's just 4.5 minutes left.
The Body Slam from that Snorlax. Body slammed while asleep. Wow. That is impressive.
Honestly, here for Caitlyn, I want to see the Shedinja come out. Let's at least
Let's
see the
go.
Shedinja. Let's go down swinging here. Twin Energy is in the hand. Is there a Shedinja here in the prizes? I don't think there was, so maybe we won't see it. But yeah, Caitlyn will be able to copy any basic Pokemon's attacks. And I think Ditto, the only attack you really want to copy is the Shedinja. I don't think there's really much else. You could use Block Face, of course, but I mean, that is an option at least to stick around for a little bit.
That is very true. So Caitlyn does have some options here, but going through those prize cards right now with that Hisuian Heavy Ball, drawing out the Trubbish from the prize cards, shuffling them back out and playing them back down. But Trubbish, I believe, is going to come down and onto that bench to try to re-establish another Garbodor onto the field. Of course, one is in prizes. Yeah,
it's going to have to be the Ordinary Rod to get the Garbodor back that has gone down. Or if Caitlyn can take some prize cards, hope to find the Garbodor there.
Yeah, it is in a bit of an awkward place in the prize cards, so I feel like it's unlikely, but you never know. But yeah.
So this is interesting. Caitlyn does have a boss's orders in hand, and we see the Twin Energy, so she could do 70 damage here to the Ice Cube on the bench. It's not quite enough to pick up the KO thanks to that Cape of Toughness. It's going to be increasing that HP. If she had maybe that Tool Jammer, that would then be enough to take this knockout. It might just be worth it for her to get the damage in play here, though.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what she's deciding right now, but choosing to boss's order up the Manaphy, actually. So putting that Manaphy into the active position here.
I think just trying to chase the prizes here. Wants to maybe hope to get the Garbodor off the prizes, I would imagine.
Yeah, knowing that it's in there.
Yeah.
True. That is very true. Ultra Balling here, discarding a Pal Pad and Caitlyn's own Manaphy as well, drawing out a Pokemon from the deck. I don't know. Yeah, well, there's only 2 Garbodors in the deck and one's in the prize cards. So, yeah, going for that Evital there, benching it down on Caitlyn's side. Also just thinning through the deck in general. Only 2 cards in hand, though, for Caitlyn right now. So still such a slim hand, such low amount of resources that you want to be working with, especially when you're playing a deck like this.
Yep. So Blockface will be able to pick up the KO on the Manaphy. Wash Energy does still provide a Water Energy when it's attached to anything. It doesn't. True. Yeah, I think that might be what Stuart's checking here. It does still provide a Water Energy. It just only gets that extra effect when it's attached to a Water Pokemon.
Got it. All right, so we are going to see that knockout on the Manaphy, just enough damage there to take a prize card over on Caitlyn's side. Stuart already having taken 2 prize cards on his side, promoting that Snorlax back into the active position, 30 damage counters, or sorry, 30 damage on it. But we're going to see that Yellowhorn make an appearance again. Now both active Pokemon are confused. Gallermine being thrown into play to up that retreat cost as well, sticking your opponent in a very tough position to be in. And straight into a quick ball, discarding a Greedent V and searching out a basic Pokemon. Caitlyn gonna look through those discarded cards as well to see what has Stuart gone through so far.
We could see Eldegoss attack for the first time here because Stuart has that Forest Seal Stone in hand, so we could see him throw down the Eldegoss, put the Forest Seal Stone on it, go get the double turbo energy, and then use Birdkeeper, or use Birdkeeper, then the Forest Seal Stone would be the correct sequencing there, actually, but we'll see which strategy he goes with. Does grab the Pyukumuku off of the Quick Ball, so we could see that pitched and draw a card. That will be the case.
Yeah, that Forest Sealstone, huge inclusion for sure in this deck.
Yes.
Get exactly the resource that you need. But we're just going to see the pass back over to Caitlyn. Of course, both of these active Pokemon are still confused here. But here we go. The switch card now coming into play. Ditto. Ditto is a basic Pokemon there. Switching into the Evital here for Caitlyn.
Does have the Twin Energy, so we could see Cry of Destruction get rid of the 2 energy on the Snorlax, but as I forgot in the first game, we do have to remember that Wash Energy will protect the Ice Cube from actually even having that energy discarded. So it looks like I think time here is being called, so Caitlyn is going to be turn 0. And that means Stuart will be turn 1, as he is placing the dice out there, letting us know he is indeed going to be turn 1, and realistically, all Stuart has to do is just pass 2 times and the game's going to be over.
Yeah. That's what we're going to be seeing here. Stuart just passing back to Caitlyn, and this is going to be the conclusion, Chip. I don't know. Did you expect this for this matchup?
Yeah, I thought that this was going to be tough for Caitlyn.
Yeah.
I really wish we could have seen her deck, go up against something like the Lugia or the
Something
Mew.
it thrives against,
right,
really.
Right. But in this spot, yeah, control just feels like it was too much of an uphill battle for her, and Stuart is going to win this game
Wow,
with
there
the
you go.
Eldegoss loop control.
Congratulations there to Stuart. That Eldegoss control deck that we've seen time and time again on our stream. Stuart playing into all of his outs against a deck that I'm sure he did not at all prepare for whatsoever. So you can just see the strength in this deck itself. There's so many strategies that you can work around, and Stuart really did that on this stream. So congratulations, a very well-earned win.
Yeah, I think the only people in this whole tournament that were prepared for Caitlyn's deck are probably the people who are testing with her and like her friends and stuff, right? People who knew that she brought it. Yeah, we have to give massive props for sure to Caitlyn. Such a cool and unique strategy. And, 3-1 is still a fine place to be, and there's a decent shot we could see her tomorrow. So there, if she's doing well tomorrow, we're going to try to get it back on and see if we can give Garboder the justice it deserves.
And Shedinja